Hello everyone. I want to use this video to introduce a few ideas about our main reading this semester. It's a book by the historian Henry Wincek called Master of the Mountain, Thomas Jefferson and His Slaves. You might have thought, why are we reading Master of the Mountain this semester? In other words, why have I made it our main book rather than, say, making a standard textbook our main book? Will it teach us about American history? Yes. Will we learn about Thomas Jefferson? Yes. And furthermore, will it help us learn about how history is written? Yes. But there's another reason, just as important as all of these reasons, and I don't know, maybe more important. We're reading Master of the Mountain this semester to learn about us, about ourselves. Now, to appreciate this, and I mean really appreciate this, you'll have to take a little journey with me this semester. Okay, so you might be wondering, what does a history book written in our own time about someone who died almost 200 years ago have to teach us about ourselves? 200 years, that's a long time ago, right? Well, before we can answer that question, before we look at the book and its subject, we have to start with us. Who are we anyway? Well, what do people, in other words, what do American people usually say in answer to that question? America is great, or great again, because of freedom. That's who we are. If you work hard in America, you can be successful and you can achieve something called the American dream. That's who we are. And furthermore, American history as a subject, the subject you're taking this semester, is the story of this basic lesson. What basic lesson? Freedom, freedom, freedom. Okay, well, isn't that what Americans often say? And therefore, reading a book about Thomas Jefferson, one might conclude, one of America's founding fathers, after all, should pretty much prove the point that freedom really is the American way, right? Great. And isn't the point of American history to teach us all about just how great we really are? In other words, the story of how we became so great. So why do we need a whole book if we already know that? If we already know who we are, free, and what we are. Great. All right, well, if you're watching this video, then I'm guessing you're a little suspicious of all this. And if so, you're right to be. And if you're not, you should be. So start paying attention. I'm very serious that we are reading Master of the Mountain to learn about who we are. But the answer that it provides is way more complicated, way messier, but also much more honest and therefore much more necessary than those simple mythologies about American freedom and American greatness. This book has provoked a certain amount of controversy. You'll learn about that, even among historians, for the way that it deals with Thomas Jefferson and the way that it calls into question any simple notions about either the founding fathers or the concept of freedom in American history. We'll pay attention to that controversy. And we'll pay attention to how the author, Wincek, actually builds his historical case. We'll look at his conclusions, but we'll also look at his evidence, because we want to know how history gets made. In other words, the history that we end up studying. You knew that history gets made, right? It doesn't just arrive fully formed like some heavenly gift. And so we'll want to see exactly how it gets made. Look at the evidence, the sources, both primary and secondary, the analysis, the interpretations, the arguments, etc. And as I say, we'll constantly reflect on how all of this, how the histories we study, can tell us about ourselves and the world we live in today. Who are we really? And how did we get here? And how does knowing that give us any advantage about who we want to be going forward? Those are the questions that will define our mission as we study American history this semester, and our reading of Master of the Mountain. Now, I look forward to sharing that exploration with you, and I encourage you to take a look at our first homework assignment. It's not due until the end of week 2, but I'd like you to look at it this week and start reading the book, at least the introduction, before it's actually assigned next week. It'll give you a sneak peek at what you'll be doing on that first assignment and introduce you to the book. So be sure to check it out under our week 1 module. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Have a great week, everyone.